Hi friends, welcome back to my quilt room and happy Fall Friday, Halloween edition. And if you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by. Today we have some cute little projects for Halloween. One is the t-shirt I'm wearing. I'm going to show you how to cut this ghost out. I'm also going to have the pattern listed below in the description, and I'm going to show you how to sew it on. The other thing is this adorable Halloween bunting that you can hang anywhere in your house. What a cute addition, or if you're having a Halloween party. The other is a trick-or-treat bag for the littles. How cute. Or even the big kids. You can just make it bigger. And then we have these cute little drawstring treat bags that fit full-size candy bars, even multiple candy bars in there. There's plenty of room in there. And these make a cute addition if you want to give something special out to your kids or grandkids, or maybe you have some special neighbor kids you want to give them to. And how adorable if your kid brought that to school for everybody. They'd be the popular one. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to work on our t-shirt now. And I went to Hobby Lobby, bought myself a t-shirt. And what I did was I have this fabric here. And I have this pattern, which I will link below. And what I did, this is at full enlargement. And you can decide what size you want it by just printing it out in whatever scale fits your shirt. So hopefully that makes sense. And then it's got two eyes right here. So what I did was I copied that, and I did mine, I think, at 90%, because I felt like that fit this shirt the best. And I just copied it in 90%, then cut it all out to make this, and then cut that out, made two eyes out of black fabric, which I had here a second ago. There we go. I have my two eyes. So let's make our body first. So I had this fabric, and I got this from Amazon. And it's supposed to be cotton, but I'm not really sure if it is cotton. It's got a really rough texture to it, but I felt in this application it was fine. So I went with it. And I'm going to pick a pattern out of here. I think I'll do the ghost. Since it's a ghost, I'll do the pink ghost. So what I did was I just basically took my pattern and took my marking tool. Now you can use any marking tool you wish, or you can cut it out freehand. You can just pin this on here, cut it out freehand, that's fine. But I'm not very good at that, so I just basically I turned this over, and this doesn't matter, the pattern doesn't matter which side you have it on because it's symmetrical, so it's going to be right on either side. And then I just really went around and just drew around the paper. Now you can also take this and, recopy it onto a piece of cardboard or any plastic that will be much firmer. But I wasn't too worried about this because if you write on the paper, it's not a big deal. As long as you get the form onto your fabric somehow. And honestly, I'm not really being perfect because if I mess up, as long as I have the correct shape, then we're good to go. And there we have it. Super easy. And then I just took my scissors and I cut out around the shape. Just turning my scissors as I go. And there we have it. So now we have our little ghost. And I already cut out my eyes. And there we have it. So I think the general rule of thumb is about 3 fingers from the top. And that's where you should place your motif. And you can certainly get a ruler and measure side to side, but I think that looks pretty good. So let's go to the machine and I'll show you how we're going to sew this. But before we do that, just I'm going to pin it at the top and at the bottom, just so it doesn't move on us when we go to the machine or while we're sewing. Okay, so I'm just going to put 2 pins, one here and one here. Right, now let's go to the machine. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we're going to take off our table, because I don't need that right now. You want to make sure that you have your, if you don't have a table on there, you might have a tray here where you keep your tools. You might need to take that off also. And then I'm just going to slide my t-shirt underneath to where my little ghost is. Try to lay that flat. And just pick a spot where you want to start. And you want to just sew sort of close to the edge. If you want to move it in a little more, you can do that. And then when you wash it, it will rag up on you. So that's a really cute look too. So I'm just going to actually do a 1/4 inch because I want it to rag for me also. So I'm just going to lower my presser foot right on the edge of my little ghost, and then I'm going to glide that all the way around. Now you want to take your time because sometimes the fabric doesn't move as easy. So if you get stuck and it's not turning for you, just lift your presser foot, turn the fabric, and bring it back down. So I'm going to take my little eyes off too, so we don't need them right now. We'll do that in a minute. So I'm just going to start sewing. And I'm doing a stitch length of 2.4. You can make it bigger or smaller depending on what you prefer. So I'm just going to turn my little ghost in the direction that it's going. And you want to take your time. I know I like to go a little fast myself, but for this, I would suggest just taking your time unless you're comfortable zooming around. But I really am not. Now, when you get to your corners, you're going to have to estimate where you should start to turn, because you're not going to come all the way out to the corner since you're leaving a a gap between your stitch line and your material. So I'm comfortable with that right there. So I'm going to turn my shirt and start up the other side. Making sure that you don't get your shirt caught underneath and it's laying flat. And check it every now and then that your shirt is not getting caught underneath there. And just continue to sew. I'm going to finish this off and I'll show you when I get it done. Okay, so now our ghost is done. I have that on there and it's all sewn down. And now we want to put our eyes on. So basically I'm just going to, I'm going to take my pins out now. I'm just going to guesstimate where I want them. And I'm going to go this back under. Oh no, actually I'm going to change to my black thread, but I'm just going to basically guess at where I want them. And then I'm going to sew around. I'm going to use black thread this time. Sew around it the same way I did with my ghost. And when I get that done, I will show you. So here's the shirt, and it's all sewn down. We got our ghost and our eyes. And when you wash it, if you go in far enough, you can get it to like rag a little bit around the edges. So I'm hoping it does that. So it was a lot of fun to make, and I hope you make yourself one or your kids or your grandkids because it's a really cute project. So let's move on to our next one. Okay, so now we're going to do our trick or treat bag. And I geared this size towards somewhere, the 5 to 7 year old range. And what I did was I cut 4 pieces. I have 2 for the outside and 2 for the lining. And I cut them at 12 by 14. And then I have 2 pieces for the handles, which are 4 inches by 18 inches. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take my outsides and I'm going to put them right sides together, line them up. And what we're going to do is we're going to, you can clip these. I'm just going to like clip them one on each side just so they stay together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch down the 2 sides and across the bottom. So all the way around these 3 sides, 1/2 inch, leave the top open. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my inside pieces and I'm going to put them right sides together. Lining those up. And we're going to do something similar. We're going to go down the 2 sides and across the bottom, but we're going to leave an opening at the bottom so that we can turn this whole thing out when we're finished. So I'm going to say about 4 inches. So we'll say there to there. And you don't want to sew in that area. So I'm going to grab a couple clips. Again, I'm just going to put a couple here so it doesn't move on me when I go to the machine. And then I'm going to put 2 here so I know not to sew in between them. Plus I have my marks. So I'm going to take that to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch all the way around. So all 3 sides on the outside fabric and then 2 sides and this small piece here. Don't sew this here. And I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have them all sewn down. Here's the top. Oops. Okay, and then here is the lining. We sewed it on all 3 sides, except for the bottom piece. We want to leave that opening. And when you sew this, you want to back stitch when you start and you stop. And I also back stitch at the top. You don't have to, but I just like to reinforce that a little bit, especially when I'm turning it inside out and things. So now we're going to deal with our handles. Now we have 2 pieces here, and they are 4 inches by 18 inches. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold them in half and iron them. And then what you want to do is you want to take each side and you want to fold that in half. And I find it easier just to do one side at a time and to just sort of fold it inside like that, so I know I'm getting it right down in there. And then I just flip it and I go to the other side. And I do the same thing. Also, this way I know each side of my handles is meeting up. Okay, so now I'm going to take it to the machine. I'm going to do my other handle, iron that up, and then I'm going to sew on each side of the handle, and that will hold it together and also reinforce it and make it a little stronger. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my two handles done, and I did switch to my black thread, and so I don't know if you can really see this, but I just top stitched right on the edges on both sides. That's all you need. And that holds the two seams together, and then it reinforces that other side. So now they're nice and sturdy. So what you want to do now is take your outside fabric and turn that right side out. First, I want to clip those corners though. Just makes it a little easier to get them nice and sharp, our points. Okay. And we're going to turn this right side out. And pop out those corners. And you can use a point turner if you want. And then we're going to take our iron, and I'm just going to iron my seams flat, just making sure that they are out where they belong. Okay. So now that that's all ironed down, what we want to do next is to take our handle, and we're going to form a loop, put them at the top edge of our fabric or our bag. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 2.5 inches in from the side of my bag. And that's where I'm going to place my handle. And I'm going to grab some clips. And I'm going to clip that to the one side of my bag. And I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to measure 2.5 inches in. Put our other handle on, and then clip that to our bag. Okay, so we have the one side of our handles on. And you can adjust those handles however far out or in you want. Now I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to take my other handle, and I'm going to measure that just right up with the other handle on the other side. You can double check with your ruler to make sure it's 2.5 inches. But I'm pretty confident that that is where it's at. So I'm going to pin that. And then I'm going to take this one, measure that up with the other side, and clip that. Okay, so now we have our handles on. Now we're going to go to the machine, and we're going to do a 1/4 inch right across just the handles on both sides. And what I usually do is I will sew it and then back stitch all the way across just to reinforce them. So 1/4 inch each side, and I'll be right back. Okay, so our handles are all sewn down, and we got both sides. And again, I back stitched, I went across and then came back and back stitched, but that's just me. You don't have to do that. I just like to reinforce it because I know sometimes candy bags can get very heavy. So I just want to make sure it's not going to fall apart. All right, so now what we want to do is we have our lining, we have our front piece, and what we're going to do is we're going to take our bag and we're going to put it inside our lining. And what we want to do is we want to line this up. And first we want to make sure our seams are matching. And if you can nest those seams right there, just push one seam to one side and one to the other side, and they will nest right in with each other. And I'm going to grab some clips. I'm going to clip that. Then I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to match those seams. I'm going to push one to this side, one to that side. Nest them right in there. Okay. Pin that or clip it. Okay, now I want to match up the rest of my bag. First thing I do is the handles. Okay. And then if you want to put any other clips in, you can do that. I think because this bag is small, I just need to, those two spots right there would do fine. But certainly put as many pins or as clips as you want. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to the machine and I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch all the way around. And I'll be right back. Okay, so our bag is sewn all the way around, 1/2 inch all the way around. And now what we want to do is, first I'm going to clip these corners on the lining. And then what we're going to do is are going to take that opening that we made and we're going to pull out our outer bag. And just take your time, and if you back stitched at those points, you should be fine. You shouldn't rip your stitching or anything like that. So just pull them out. There we go. We're almost done. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put my hand in there and pop out those corners. There it is. And what I want to do is now we want to close up this bottom. So it should automatically fold in for you because that's where our seam was. Let's clip that. Okay. I'm going to iron that real quick just so it stays when I go to the sewing machine. And we're just going to give it a little top stitch just on the opening part, just right there, little top stitch. And I'll be right back. Okay, so we have our bottom sewn, and I'm not sure you could see because it's black thread, but I just did a tiny stitch right on top here, about 1/8 of an inch. So now what we want to do is we want to take our bag and we want to push our lining inside, matching up those corners. Making sure that bottom is down there. Okay. And then I'm just going to press this top down. That handle out. I'm going to press this top down real quick just so it's nice and flat, because then I'm going to top stitch all the way around. So let me do that real quick. So I have that all pressed down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just top stitch about 1/4 inch all the way around just to hold that down. and I'll be right back. Okay, and our bag is finished. How cute is this? I really love it. And here is the inside. I don't know if you can see down in there. And I just pressed it all down real quick. Now I used black at the top because I had black in the machine, and I thought that was really cute highlight there. So there's the other side. And I also did back stitch when I stopped and started my 1/4 inch around here. So that's the bag, and I think it's adorable. Cute little trick or treat bag. So I hope you enjoyed that project. And now we'll go on to our next one. Okay, so for our banner, I'm using the Riley Blake Trick or Treat. And what I did was I went through and picked out some patterns and colors that I liked. And I have a stack here that I'm working on. I'm going to take one of my squares. I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm just going to crease this bottom 2 outside edges and then in the middle. And I'm going to turn it the other way. And I'm going to do that again. And I'm just really making creases so I know where to cut. This just helps me instead of having to measure. So I'm just going to line up my ruler on those creases. And I'm also going to make sure that I'm straight at the bottom here. And I'm straight at the top too. And if you're a little nervous about that, what you can do is just take a smaller ruler, and I've shown this before, and you can measure, and it's 5 inches on that side. So another foolproof way. And I'm going to cut. And then I'm going to do that again for the other half. Line that up. Remeasure if I want. That looks good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my squares. I'm going to fold it right sides together. And you don't have to press this. You can just finger press if you want. And I'm just going to sew down one edge. Either edge, doesn't matter. Just one. You can pin this, clip it, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to take this to the machine. I'll do that and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so then I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to just clip that top. Don't cut your stitches. Now I'm going to take this, turn it right side out. Grab my poker here and poke that corner out. Now what you want to do is you want to take that seam and you want to lay it right in the middle. And you want to iron that down. Now with this flap here, you just want to take that and fold that up until it meets the bottom, like that. And I'm going to iron it again. Okay, and there's our flag. So cute and very easy. I'm just going to clip these little edges here. So I'm going to take my squares, I'm going to make all my little flags, and then I'll come back and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I have a bunch of flags done, and you don't have to sew this piece here that we folded in. I just want to mention that because we're going to sandwich that sort of in a, what I'm going to use is a twill tape. So I have this 1-inch twill tape, and this is what we're going to use for our top to string along our flags together. And you can use bias tape it's already folded in half. You can use that. You can use lace. I don't have any black lace, otherwise I would show you that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 1-inch twill tape and I'm going to fold it in half and iron it. So I'm just going to do a strip of it so I can get started. And it'll make it a little easier when I'm putting these together. And I'm just going to do a nice size strip here. Okay, so now what you want to do is, that on this side, you want to give yourself at least 12 inches. So I'm going to start right about here. And what you're going to do is you're going to start putting your flags inside that fold. So you want to open that fold up and you want to place your first flag in there. Make sure it's covering both sides. Grab some clips and I'm going to clip this, making sure that that flag is all the way up to the top there. So now on your next one, this is where you're going to determine how far apart you want them. So you could, if you wanted to just go edge to edge, like corner to corner, you could do that and it'll give you that much of a separation. Or you could measure out a little bit, depending on the look you want. That looks like to be about a 1/2 inch. We can always measure that. That's like 3/4 of an inch. But that looks good to me actually. So I'm going to go with that. And then I'm going to put my next one in. Again, making sure that that's pushed up at the top. And then you want to continue on with all your little flags, putting them in, and then clipping them down, making sure you have the space you want. I'm just going to eyeball that. That looks good to me. So I'm going to continue doing that for however big I want it. And then I'm going to take it to the machine and I'm going to sew right, I would say about a 1/4 inch from this edge all the way down, because you want to make sure that you're catching both sides of this, and you want to make sure that this is far up enough so that when you sew it, you're going to be catching that top too. So I would say about a 1/4 inch all the way down, and then your bunting will be done. So I'm going to do that and then I'll be back. Okay, so here is our Halloween bunting. And I think I've been calling it a banner most of the time, but it's more like a bunting. And it's all finished. And you can see it is sandwiched in between our twill tape. And I have the 12 inches on the end so that we can hang it. And it is all done, and I think it's adorable. So I hope you have fun making that, because that is so cute. And you can make this for any occasion. You can even make a Christmas one or a birthday one if you have some birthday fabric or any festive fabric. You can make one for Easter, any occasion. They're so much fun. So I hope you enjoyed that project, and we're going to go on to the next one. And the next project I'm going to show you are these little candy bags, little drawstring candy bags that you can put a candy bar in, or even multiple, because it's got plenty of room in there. And so we're going to do this next. Okay, so for our next project, we're going to do this cute little drawstring candy bag. And you can fit like a full-size candy bar in it and even multiple candy because it's pretty wide in there. So let me show you how we're going to make this. I am using the layer cake from Riley Blake called Trick or Treat. And I'm just going to grab one of these light colored ones. Here we go. Let's do this one. Okay, so the dimensions we want to cut at are 5 across and 9 down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 1 inch off the bottom of this, since these are 10 inches square. And then I'm going to cut this in half at 5 inches. So I'm going to line up that bottom. And if you want to double check yourself, you can always use your little ruler like I always show you, because these peaks and valleys sometimes really get me. And I'm just going to move that over slightly. Okay. And then I'm going to cut in half. All right, so now we have our front and our back. So now we're going to put right sides together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up with my mat, and I'm going to measure down 2 inches on each side and put a mark. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch from this mark down across the bottom and up to the next mark. We're not going to sew this piece right here, and I'll show you why in a minute. So 1/2 inch down across and up to this, back stitching at both of these spots. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have our bag sewn down 1/2 inch all the way around. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to take my little scissors and I'm going to snip right at that line, right to the end of my stitch line there. But don't clip your stitch line. So I'm just going to clip that right there. Okay, and I'm going to do that on the other side. Okay, so now let me just get rid of those marks. Okay, so now we have our little slits right here and here, and that's going to help us make our pocket for our drawstring. So before we do that, I'm going to take my pinking shears, and you can just use scissors if you want, and I'm just going to trim this down to a 1/4 inch. And this will help it like not fray if you're going to use this, reuse it year after year, or you're using it for yourself, or if you're giving it out, they can reuse them, and it'll just help the longevity of it. Don't clip that flap. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to make our little little hems here for our drawstring. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this flap here and you're going to fold it in about a 1/4 inch and then fold it in again. So we're sort of like hemming that. And we're going to do that on all 4 sides, these 2 here and then these 2 in the back. So again, you're going to take it one side, fold it in about a 1/4 inch, and then a 1/4 inch again. And that's going to give you like a little hem. And then I'm going to iron this, and I'm going to take it to the machine, and I'm going to just top stitch that so it stays down. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we have that all sewn down. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take those top pieces, and just make sure that when you are sewing this, you're folding that piece back so that you're not sewing these together. And what you want to do is you want to turn this down a 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to just press that real quick, just so it stays, so you can see, because we're now making our drawstring opening. And then we're going to take that, and we're going to take this edge here, and we're going to bring that down right to where the pinking part, where we pinked our edges, or cut your edges, whichever you did. So right where that sticks out. And again, I'm going to iron that. And that is what's going to become our little hole for our ribbon. And I'm going to then turn that around. I'm going to clip that because it keeps wanting to come open for me. I'm going to hold that till I sew it. And then this one, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to fold that down about a 1/4 inch. And then fold that down right to where we have that piece sticking out. And you can sew one at a time so it is a little easier for you. All right, so now I have these pinned. I'm going to take it to the machine, and I'm going to just put a little stitch right at the bottom here to hold that down. And I'll be right back. Okay, so now I have that sewn down, and I did it probably, I don't know, close to a 1/4 inch, maybe like a little less than a 1/4 inch on each side. And now what we want to do is we want to turn this inside out. And we want to pop out those little corners. And I'm just going to iron this real quick. Make sure that our seams are out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I'm using like an organza, and I believe this is a 1/4 inch. You can go an 1/8 inch if you wanted to. You can also use like a satin ribbon. This was really all I could find at my Hobby Lobby. So now I'm going to take my loop turner, or if you have a pin, you can use that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in one of the holes, come out the other side, and then I'm going to go, this is a little long, so I'm going to go in the other side until they come out, both out on the same side. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the other one and I'm going to go in where this loop is here. I'm going to go without that side and come on in and out the other side. So that now that's, oopsie, there we go. So now they're both on their own sides. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to just tie a little knot on the end. Even that up. Tie a little knot on there. Bring it close to the end. There we go. And then even this one up. And tie a knot on that one. Okay. And there we have our little drawstring bag. Super easy, very beginner friendly, and you can put a chocolate bar in there. And I think I have bigger packs. Let's see. This is a share size, and that fits in there perfectly. So as you see, you can even get a couple candy bars in there. So how cute is this? It's really special when you can give people you know, your loved ones, even just the kids in the neighborhood, little packs like this. So I hope you enjoyed that project. I think it's adorable. And you can, again, make these for Christmas. How cute would this be to put in stockings or give as little gifts at the office? So many things you can do with it. So I hope you enjoyed that one. So I hope you enjoyed all our little projects. And I know Halloween is 3 weeks away, but it takes time to make all these things. So I hope you make some things for yourself. This bunting is adorable to decorate your house. And our little treat bags, our little trick-or-treat bags. How cute is that? And you can make these any size you want, just up or down the squares of your outside in your lining. And our little t-shirt, of course. How cute is that? So until I see you in the next video, happy sewing and sew something happy.